Today we're going to talk about The Abyss. The Abyss. You say The Abyss. That movie that James Cameron did in the 1990s? And I say, yeah, that movie. And you say, why? Why are we talking about that movie of all the things to talk about? Well, the reason is I was moving recently, and I was whittling down all of my older possessions and deciding what to keep and what to get rid of. And part of those things that I was looking at were my books and my DVDs and collectibles, music, all those sorts of things. And one of the things I had was a Laserdisc player. And on my Laserdisc, I had several sort of special editions, and I was humming and hawing because they're very heavy to take with you. So I wasn't sure what to do, and then I decided, okay, I'm going to keep it. And one of the reasons I did was because of this disc here. This is the Abyss Special Edition that was put out on Laserdisc many years ago. And the Special Edition is a director's cut of Cameron's film. And what makes that special is that it's never been really available in any other format properly. There was a DVD release of it based on this transfer, but it was a 4x3. It wasn't even a proper, like, a widescreen transfer. So a lot of people go look at the reviews on Amazon. Say, this is a ripoff, man. But this exists, and the packages, I'll show that to you in the next episode. The packaging is great, and the bonus features are spectacular, and it gives you a great respect as to what went into making that movie. All the heart and soul that you put in a movie like that, and only to have it really not find the financial success of, say, Terminator or T2 or even True Lies for that matter. But before I go down that path, I did want to go down a small rabbit hole with you, and I'm sure I'll get comments on this. I'd like to get comments on it, actually, is about Cameron as a writer and a director. I think I like James Cameron a lot. Not many people are as good at doing what they do as he is. Some people will say, "Oh, he's arrogant and no, whatever." It's like none of my business. But when you look at his body of work, it's great, and it is a writer-driven works, which is Aliens, Terminator 2. And his ability to work in story is really one of his strengths, because you can do whiz bang and blow them up and do all that kind of stuff, but have the audience care about what's going on is one of the things that he does very well. And his movies are a different kind of movie than, let's say, a Spielberg movie. A certain degree of intensity to his films that nobody else really quite gets to. But I also want to talk about some of the criticisms thrown at him as being sort of, like, I know Terminator was sued by Harlan Ellison because, it's based on his works. And you're like, sure, it's based on his works. Inspired by his works, not based on. He didn't steal it. And that takes me into the rabbit hole of these things. Like, I used to say, like, Titanic was already made as movies, which is fine. And that came off of an actual event. So you have that to follow. But then, say, Avatar. Everyone says, oh, it's just Pocahontas with blue people, or what's the other one they throw at it? Dances with Wolves. And, sure, it has similarities to those stories, but it is totally inventive in its own right. And just because something's inspired by doesn't mean that you're ripping them off. Like, if Terminator is inspired by Harlan Ellison, it's a different thing than his writings. And it's only to Harlan that, it's a credit to his imagination that he's created an imagination in somebody else to go forward. And you can say even The Abyss may be inspired a bit by Close Encounters of a Third Kind by Steven Spielberg. and that would be fair. But it's inspiration's inspiration, and when you look at inspiration, sometimes it is totally derivative. Like I would say, Kurosawa's Ran is King Lear. So you wouldn't say, "Oh, Ran sucks." It's just King Lear. Oh. Or West Side Story. Oh, it's just Romeo and Juliet. So boring. It's kind of a weird criticism I find of movies that are inspired, but become something different than what's inspiring them. So and sometimes they're totally derivative, but still different. When you take at Sergio Leone's stealing Kurosawa, everyone go back to Kurosawa. Fistful of Dollars is a ripoff of Yojimbo, and was sued successfully, saying he basically remade my movie. But if you watch those two movies, they're very different movies. Different settings, and of course he's inspired by it and does his own version. And then you get Dracula and Nosferatu, and you can go down the line. So I just preface before we get into the abyss and the next video that it's not. I don't think it's fair criticism to say something is inspired by, like Tarantino's body of work is inspired by, but just fill in here. He's obviously, and he's not shy about his inspirations. Or Francis Ford Coppola's The Conversation as being inspired by Blow Up, and then Blowout by Brian De Palma, inspired by both of them, by Coppola and Blow Up. So these things, I don't take that seriously, but the movie has to work on the merits of its own. And I think The Abyss is a very good movie, and you see it in the special edition version, and we'll talk about this in the next video, is the scope of the film is so much bigger in the director's version, like so much bigger than what was released in the theater. And I remember me and my friend Steve sitting in his basement watching The Abyss for the first time on home video, and enjoying the movie until the end. And then when the ending happened, we were just like, what was that? It was like, it was a good movie, but the ending, like, what? And then, of course, it all made sense when you got the Laserdisc. When I got the Laserdisc. But I'll talk about both another episode. I'll talk about The Abyss as a movie and its structure and some of the things that maybe why it's not as, say, successful as some of Cameron's other work. Successful just meaning, eyes on from an audience. So it's a very fine movie. And then, like I said, I'll do a little sidetrack onto Laserdiscs, because for anyone who watches, it comes in from being a collector or an audiophile or videophile, whatever you want to call them, who was always striving for the best of the best. Nowadays, it's the Uber 8K Blu-ray of something, I suppose. But anyway, so that's that. And I'm looking forward to just walking through The Abyss and its changes, and looking forward to your comments.